The air was thick with the scent of sun-scorched leaves and brittle soil when I first caught the warning signs. My daily trek along the trail skirting my property, a habit formed since retiring from the Department of Environmental Protection, had always been a quiet communion with the land. 30 years as a certified stormwater engineer, plus a decade in emergency response, had sharpened my eye for trouble. That day, the Oak Ridge HOA trail screamed it. New additions stood out like sore thumbs. A concrete footbridge, unnecessarily wide and gleaming with hubris, shiny kiosks with laminated maps, a gravel parking lot at the entrance, all screaming tourism dollars, not hydrology. But it wasn't the upgrades that set my nerves on edge, it was their execution. No culvert under the bridge. Haphazard grading. Drainage lines that fizzled into nowhere. Worst of all, the swale I'd tended for years behind my fence, a lifeline for runoff, was now smothered in wood chips and trampled earth from recent landscaping. The water's path was broken, and when water loses its way, it writes its own rules. I'm Michael Reynolds, retired but far from done. That night, I fired off an email to the HOA board, sharp yet civil, laying out the stakes. Dear board members, as a homeowner and licensed drainage engineer with 4 decades of experience, I'm compelled to flag urgent issues with the trail's recent changes. The western slope's grading, absent culverts, and unchanneled runoff zones invite catastrophic flooding in a heavy rain. Attached is a free drainage redesign plan. I'm available to discuss this at your next meeting. I included a 6-page PDF with diagrams and a simulation showing how a mere 3-inch-per-hour rain could turn the trail into a torrent. A week passed in silence. Then came the reply from Lisa Harper, HOA president, her words laced with polished disdain. Mr. Reynolds, we appreciate your zeal. The board trusts our vendor assessments. Please avoid meddling in approved plans. Meddling. As if expertise were a trespass. I wasn't surprised Lisa's HOA had once fined a neighbor for garish wind chimes and bulldozed native grasses for looking wild. But I wasn't backing down. I printed a dozen copies of my report, 3-hole punched, and brought them to the next HOA meeting. The community hall's plastic chairs were as unyielding as the board's attitude. Lisa, her blonde hair a helmet of hairspray, stood flanked by Greg, the treasurer with a permanent grimace, and Sarah, the events planner, gripping her clipboard like a weapon. When I stepped to the mic, Lisa cut in. Keep it brief, Mr. Reynolds. We're busy. I held up my report. This trail sits in a floodplain buffer. Your new structures block runoff paths. A big storm will destroy it. Lisa's smile was a thin blade. We've consulted experts. I pushed back. I am an expert. Licensed. I helped draft this county's watershed rules. Greg snorted. If you wrote them, no wonder it's a mess. Laughter scattered through the room. Lisa didn't stop it. I left my reports on a table and walked out. At home, my coffee went cold as I stared at the trailhead's glowing sign, built on unstable soil they'd never checked. I'd warned them, but you can't force respect for what's dismissed. I mailed 2 more copies of my plan, one to the city's public works, one to the county floodplain office. Storms don't bow to pride, and the sky was turning heavy. Days later, I saw workers unloading mulch and a plaque for a trail dedication. Volunteers, oblivious to the flood trap they were building. I asked one about stormwater specs. He shrugged. HOA said spread mulch, put up signs. The HOA barreled ahead with Camp Oak Bend, a kids' summer program, complete with a stage, restrooms, and paved paths all in a flood-prone basin. Flyers bragged of picnic zones and birdwatching shelters, built on land I'd flagged as high risk. The ground felt spongy, unsteady. I sent a final email, CC'd to the county and a local reporter, with every risk map I'd drawn. No response. Instead, the HOA newsletter branded my warnings unqualified interference and slapped me with a $75 fine for littering my reports in the clubhouse. I laughed, not out of humor, but at their gall. This wasn't about the trail, Anna Maria, it was about power. Then my weather app pinged. An atmospheric river forming, set to dump 6 to 9 inches of rain over 36 hours. A 100-year storm, the news called it. I called it destiny. From my porch, I watched clouds gather like bruises. I sent one last email. Emergency. Incoming rainfall will overwhelm trail infrastructure. Close it now. I CC'd the county and reporters. Lisa's reply was swift. The trail meets HOA standards. Stop spreading fear. Saturday's event will proceed, weather permitting. Weather permitting. As if nature cared about their schedule. Rain hit at 4 a.m., a soft patter that swelled into a relentless wall by dawn. By noon, ditches overflowed. At the trail entrance, parents unloaded camp gear under umbrellas, blind to the rising water. I called the county's non-emergency line, gave my credentials, and asked about inspections. The dispatcher promised to relay it. By 3 p.m., the storm roared, rain slashing sideways. From my window, I saw a white water churn across the trail, the stage buckling, one corner collapsed. Sirens wailed. An HOA worker sprinted past, yelling into a radio, "The trail's gone." I grabbed my rain gear, camera, and old badge expired, but useful in chaos, and headed out. The parking lot was a lake, cars bobbing like debris. Parents screamed for kids trapped in collapsing tents. The restroom facility had caved in. I flashed my badge and joined the rescue. At a tool shed, for kids huddled, eyes wide with fear. I carried them out one by one, wading through thigh-deep water. Lisa stood frozen, her raincoat plastered to her, clipboard gone. She saw me, mouthed something, but I kept moving. I recorded everything, proof, not spite. By midnight, the creek was a beast, swallowing the trail's remains. The county declared an emergency. I sketched flow paths for the fire chief, flagging at-risk homes. No one from the HOA challenged me now. At dawn, the rain eased, revealing a ravaged landscape. A 20-foot sinkhole, a shattered bridge, a vanished stage. The news interviewed me. This was preventable, I said. Warnings were ignored. My inbox exploded, including a note from the county. Your documentation is under review. We need your expertise for reconstruction. Residents gathered, stunned, furious. Someone waved my report, once mocked, now evidence. At an emergency meeting, Lisa tried to speak, but was drowned out by shouts. You fined him for warning us, a woman yelled, holding my email. A petition to suspend the board spread like wildfire. Lisa stepped down, silent, broken. The insurance investigator, James Holt, met me, poring over my files. This is a liability disaster, he said. They ignored you at every turn. Lawsuits followed, not mine, but from families whose kids were endangered, whose homes were damaged. The HOA collapsed, its website scrubbed, its board gone. A resident committee formed, and I joined, grudgingly. We rebuilt the trail with proper drainage, native plants, and transparency, named Catonband, after the creek. Lisa volunteered quietly, staining benches, planting sedge. One day, she approached me on the trail. I dismissed you, she said. I was wrong. I nodded. Tell it to those who lost more. She did, slowly earning a place, not absolution, but growth. The trail reopened, vibrant, resilient. Kids laughed, wildflowers bloomed, and a plaque read, "In memory of what almost was, in gratitude for those who spoke." I walked it daily, not for vigilance, but for peace. The community changed lawn signs read, "Listen to experts." Maria, a fierce new leader, pushed transparency laws. My free workshop, Water Speaks Truth, spread nationwide. The flood broke us, but we rebuilt stronger, root by root, because we finally listened.